Hey, this is Miss Layla Fortune. I'm here with a deck profile for a deck I like to call Garden Maze. It is a Traptrix deck, and I wasn't originally going to do a control Traptrix deck profile because, for the most part, they're very similar to one another. It's mostly an argument of ratios, but I have enough spice in this that I think it's worth it. So let's move forward, and you can decide that for yourself. So naturally, like any Traptrix profile, we start off with the best girl. That's 3 of Mermello. So Mermello is a play starter. Her normal summon literally just gets you a trap hole. That's really important in this deck because it can sometimes just be the thing that kicks off your Sarah combo. Also, when you special summon her off of Sarah, or if you special summon her off of the trap spell from the grave, she is just a mandatory spell or trap pop. And you can do that a bunch of times a turn sometimes, so she brings a lot to the deck. You definitely want her at 3 in any build. We are playing 3 Mantis. She, as on a normal summon, she will get a Traptrix monster to your hand. Either that's your free special summon, which we will see in a minute, or it could be another normal summon if you have the field spell. She's very useful, and sometimes her ability to flip traps back into your hand can be important, either because you're trying to make sure you dodge the mandatory destruction effects on Dionea, or if you're getting evenly matched and you just want to kind of recoup some of your losses. So yeah, she's very helpful, mostly for her normal summon. Speaking of normal summons and speaking of the field spell, we have Pudica, new to the deck. And Pudica is great. Pudica will search the field spell. We're only playing 2 of Pudica because sometimes you draw the field spell and it just feels kind of bad if she's the only normal summon in your hand. But sometimes you just want to get her out, get the field spell, and then get your second normal summon. But more importantly, when you special summon her off Sarah, she can banish a face-up monster, which can be very helpful because it does come back in the standby phase, but at that point, you probably have some trap holes to deal with it. So it's kind of an indirect way of dealing with established problems. So for that reason, we definitely play 2. We're also playing Arachnacampa. She is the free special summon. If you have a Traptrix monster, you can special summon her from your hand. This is a quick effect, so you can actually do it on your opponent's turn as well. And she also, when she is on the field, protects your set spell and traps so that when they die for the first time, or when they would be destroyed for the first time, they are not. So yeah, she's very helpful. Sometimes you just need her to get your combo going. Sometimes you throw her out there as quick effect protection from a lightning storm. She's very useful. We are also playing 2 Traptrix Dionea. She is another important part of the main kind of Sarah combo. So when you special summon her, she can reset a trap hole from your grave. This is very important, especially if you happened to discard a trap hole for the effect of Holitea. And if you did that, then you can just special summon Dionea off of Sarah's special summon, and then set the trap hole, and you just kind of negated a bunch of the lost advantage that you would have had. On her normal summon, she can special summon one of your Traptrix from the grave. This is just amazing, especially in the grind game. Just getting more bodies on the field for more rank 4s, for more link monsters. She is just great. But she is still a 2 because she kind of does need other things to get her going, so you don't necessarily want her in your opening hand. I am playing 1 Traptrix Vesiculo. This is possibly the 1 Traptrix name you could cut. She's mostly in here for kind of fringe cases. If you really, really need a body on the field, you can send a set normal trap to the grave to special summon her from the hand. Sometimes that just comes up. Also, sometimes you just want to bring her in if you don't need a monster to activate an effect to trigger Sarah. Sometimes you special summon her off Sarah, and if she goes to the grave, if she is in the grave and you have no set spell or traps, you can banish her to set a whole normal trap from your grave. So she's just more recursion. She's, like I said, very fringe cases, but she's very handy. And now now that we've gone through the Traptrix monsters, we can get to the Spice, which is one monster so far, but there will be more. But yeah, we are playing one copy of Lady Labrynth of the Silver Castle. This is why it's Garden Maze. They are the garden, she brings the maze. She is just a big body that can special summon itself off the activation of a normal trap, which you're doing all of the time. And also, when you activate a normal trap, she can then seek out more traps from your deck. So she is more follow-up and advantage. She can sometimes just be a big body, and honestly, sometimes you can just use her to dodge your way out of stuff with a trap that we are also playing, but we will talk about that after. Now, in terms of other monsters we're playing, we have one more combo piece, and it's the old reliable Parallel Exceed. For a long time, I was only playing 2, and that's just wrong. It is so important to ideally try and insulate your plays with a Rafflesia, and Parallel Exceed is just a free Rafflesia once you summon Sarah. So playing 3 is the move. It is always the move. This card would only be better if it had Traptrix in its name. So, finally, we are playing just 3 Ash Blossom. Right now in the format, it's a good hand trap. It's pretty reliable. So, I don't need to explain to you why you can play Ash. We've had Ash for over half a decade now. You know why we play Ash. So, let's collect the monster cards over here. Now, in terms of spell cards, we are playing 2, and they are the same card, and they are Traptrix Garden. Like I said, it is a garden maze, and this field spell does bring a ton to this deck. It does give you an extra normal summon, which this deck is just full of high-impact normal summons. So being able to get a second one, insane. It also lets you banish one of your monsters. Doesn't have to be a Traptrix, just a monster, to special summon one of your Traptrix from the grave. Also incredibly useful at times, just to cycle through names, just to get things back in rotation. And finally, if your Traptrix would be destroyed, once per turn they're not. That's, once again, it's just extra protection. It makes your board incredibly sticky and annoying to deal with. And it's very searchable through Boudica, which is why we're only playing 2. Because you definitely don't want to see more than one of this card. It feels real bad. One thing we are playing 3 of is the new Trap Hole, which is also a trap monster, which is Traptrix Holotea. So Traptrix Holotea can be activated the first turn you set her. By pitching a normal trap from your hand, you have a ton of normal traps in the deck, and Mermello can usually search you one if you need to as well. So yeah, she's very helpful for getting your first turn play off, because you really want trap cards you can activate on turn 1 so you can get your Sarah value. Not having a trap card in your opening hand sucks. You don't want it to happen, so she gets a lot of things going. I was at one point playing 2 of her. I've definitely moved up to just 3. She's just too reliable. Also, because of the grind game, you can banish her from the grave as a quick effect, as a trap speed effect, to special summon a Traptrix monster from the grave. You can't do both things at the same turn, but this is so useful for the grind game. You get so much value out of Holotea. Now we're playing plenty of hole traps. This is a trap hole deck, as it were. I am playing 2 Gravediggers Trap Hole. I know some people will say you can play 1. I think those people are wrong. I think that protecting yourself from things like Nibiru, protecting yourself from hand traps, and just protecting yourself or insulating yourself from decks like Branded that really take advantage of the graveyard, this card is still invaluable. People are iffy on Nibiru, but it's still a card that's running around, and it can be debilitating, and it just feels really dumb when you're hit with it and you didn't need to be, because this deck has its own native protection. That is also, it does 2,000 fucking damage for no reason. It's an amazing trap card, and I still think you should be playing it at 2. I am playing one Floodgate Trap Hole for your Xyz decks, for your Synchro decks, for your Link decks. It is just great to flip over a monster and make it just useless. It is not as good in matchups that are fusion based, so branded can still be a bitch. Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare is a negate. This deck doesn't get many of those, but if your opponent special summons a monster and then tries to trigger its effect, you can negate it, you can destroy it. This happens a lot in Kashtira, as it turns out, so I definitely love Traptrix Trap Hole Nightmare. I would not take it out of the deck. We do have one new Traptrix Trap Hole card, and that is Traptrix Trap Hole. Oh, sorry, Terrifying Trap Hole Nightmare. And this one, if your opponent has special summoned a monster this turn, so it does not have to be right now, which is great because a lot of the trap holes just don't have flexible timing windows. This one does. So if they special summon a monster, you can go ahead and you can target and destroy a monster with over 2,000 attack. Then, if you have a whole trap in the grave, which you usually will, you can banish one monster from your opponent's grave. So it's a targeted pop, and it can also be a called by the grave functionally, or I guess a DD Crow. Now we're back onto spice traps because we were playing 2 Big Welcome Labrynth. So you do a lot of special summoning on your opponent's turn in this deck. So sometimes you will just have a Traptrix monster hanging out on your field, and you can Big Welcome Labrynth it into the Lady Labrynth from your hand, deck, or graveyard. So it allows recursion for Lady Labrynth. It also allows some fringe cases. I can't tell how many times I was getting even lead anyway, and then I would just activate Big Welcome Labrynth, put a Traptrix back in my hand for some next turn follow-up, and then bring out Lady Labrynth to essentially eat the evenly matched. Like, she's a great... I feel bad. She's great for just taking one for the team. But also, if you have her on the field, Big Welcome Labrynth then just becomes its own form of removal. It's very, very nifty. It does a lot of fun things for the deck. I'm not saying this is the most optimal build of Traptrix. I'm saying this is the build where you get to play the big, hot Labyrinth lady. And, like, I like that, so we keep her in the deck. Now, this is the other spice trap. It has nothing to do with Labyrinth, but Dimension Slice is actually an interesting going second card. I accidentally found this one just kind of looking up cards on Omega. So I'm going to read this card because this is obscure. But it's a normal trap, and it says, when a normal monster is special summoned to your side of the field, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, banish that target. If the summon was an Xyz summon, you can activate this card the turn it was set. So if you are going second, you're forced to go second, they set some stuff up. As long as you can get to one of your Xyz monsters, which this deck really is good at doing, you can trigger this on turn 1, potentially activate your Sarah effect, but also just have a form of removal. Have a form of banishing removal at that. So, like, I think it is a fun spice. I definitely sided out going first. But even then, going first, you can still set it, and you're very likely to trigger Sarah at some point, summon a monster to your field, and then you can use Dimension Slice to just bop something that your opponent has. We are playing one Torrential. I really like this card, but honestly, over time, it has become less and less necessary in the deck. Honestly, it's mostly here as an option for Lady Labrynth to set after another trap goes off. It's still very useful because when you have Rafflesia up, all of your Traptrix monsters are not going to die to it, which is super helpful. But yeah, I wouldn't play too many. I'm keeping it to 1 for now. I am also playing 3 Evenly Matched. It is very useful in this format. It's still well positioned, gets rid of a lot on the fields, and then really simplifies matters. And finally, I am playing 2 Phantom Knight of Shade Brigandine. I get into discussions with people about whether or not this card's still necessary because we have Holatea. And, like, I get where that's coming from. but sometimes you don't have Holotea, or sometimes Holotea is the only trap card in your hand, and you don't really get an option to activate her turn 1. It's so necessary to activate traps turn 1 that just having more options, especially an option that just gives you a level 4 body, I think is worth having 2 of these cards. Now we can look at the extra deck. Okay, so we are playing 2 Sarah. She is the lifeblood of the deck. It kind of hurts me to only play her at 2. This deck's extra deck space is a little tight because we do want to play some rank 4 options and one more spice thing. But we'll go over that in a second. But yeah, Sarah, when you activate a Traptrix monster effect, you can set a trap hole, which can get you either Holotea or just trap holes to follow up with stuff. And then when you activate a trap card, any normal trap card, and actually if anyone activates a normal trap card, you can then special summon a Traptrix monster from the deck, which can be Mermella's Pop, it can be Dionea retrieving a trap hole. There's a lot of options. You can get the Pudica to banish one of your opponent's monsters for the turn. So, very, very important. Link 1, easy to get to. Also, because it's a Link 1, easy way to get your Parallel Exceeds off. You need her at least 2. You can play her at 3 as well. Traptrix Cularia. So she is great for the grind game. At the end of your turn, she will special summon a Traptrix in defense from your graveyard, which is just a great way to get bodies on board, a great way to get more Traptrix triggers. Also, when you activate a trap hole card, once per turn, you can just set it again. It doesn't go to the graveyard, you can just set it and you have it for next turn. Very, very useful. Traptrix Adipus is the new kind of Link boss monster. She's the Link 3. She is kind of your win condition card, honestly. So what she does is, as long as you have a normal trap card in your grave, she gives all of your Traptrix monsters 1,000 attack, which is wild. It's truly an insane amount. You can also target an amount of face-up cards your opponent controls equal to the amount of Traptrix you can control, and you can negate their effects for the turn, and then you have the option to banish a normal trap hole from your grave and just get rid of one of your enemy's creatures, or one of your enemy's cards that you have negated. She's very useful. She's a great OTK enabler. She's part of the reason why I actually cut Boral Sword out of the deck, just because she kind of does a lot of what Boral Sword was already doing. Yeah. We're playing Asa, the Earth Charmer, immovable. She's pretty generic. She can come up, especially if you get something sent to your field. You can just kind of link it off with her. Sometimes if you're going up against an Earth deck, it's just truly value, but I think it's worth having her in here for the fringe cases where she's going to benefit you. IP Masquerena is something I recently added back into the deck. And it's because sometimes you finish your turn with Adipus, and you just have some stuff on your field. And Adipus she doesn't protect herself going second. So this is a great way to, if you get 2 other monsters, you could link it to this, and then you have an option to go into the next card that I have in here, which is Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax. And this is, I'm going to be real with you, at least partially in here because I just pulled the Collector's Rare. But yeah, if you have an Adipus and just 2 extra monsters on your board that aren't going to be protecting themselves next turn, you can link 2 of them into an IP Masquerena, and then you can link all of that into an Avramax and just have a Towers on your field. Sometimes that's enough. And even if you can't go into IP, sometimes you just go into Mech Knight Crusadia Avramax, and sometimes his protection's enough. So he brings a lot more than you would think. So I'm currently trying things out with him. We're now playing 2 Rafflesia. Traptrix Rafflesia is insane. She is truly one of the hearts and souls of the deck. There's a reason why I sprung for the ultimates on her. But yeah, Rafflesia protects your other Traptrix monsters from destruction, and they cannot be targeted. Also, like all of your Xyz monsters, while she has materials, she's immune to trap effects. And more importantly, if you meet the activation conditions for a trap hole card that's in your deck, you can detach something from her, and then you can just activate that effect as her effect. This is why you have the grave diggers in here, because when they activate Nibiru, you just activate Rafflesia, send Nibiru, send grave diggers, and they take 2,000 damage. This is very easy to get on your 5th summon, because it's usually Traptrix monster into Sarah, into either a trap card and Dionea, or if you have the Exceed, then you just get 2 Exceeds, and then your 5th summon is Rafflesia. And the reason I play 2 Gravediggers is because you cannot activate trap holes from your hand with Rafflesia's effect. So if you draw the Gravediggers, it's offline. So I Rafflesia is amazing. I'm playing 2 because the deck is tight. In more pure builds, I've certainly just kind of defaulted to playing 3 of her. Next is Traptrix Pangicula, and she is a searcher for monsters, and that is very nifty. She gets monsters to your hand. Sometimes that's Arachnocampa. Sometimes if you have the field spell, it's just another normal summon. Once again, just the more things you can just kind of get into your hand, very useful. That said, sometimes you'll be tempted to go into her right away, and just be warned, that means you're not protecting yourself from Nibiru with Rafflesia. So be cautious with your lines, is all I'm saying. Know what your opponent might be playing. We're playing 1 Traptrix Labrynth, and it's mostly because I love her. She also sometimes gets you kind of to the end of OTK pushes, because she can detach 2 to just special summon a Traptrix level 4 monster from your graveyard. So sometimes you get her out so you can just kind of make a bigger push with the Adipus OTK. Also, if your opponent's monster is sent to the graveyard or banished by a card's effect, you can detach 1 from her and just special summon it to your fields, which can be a pain in the ass for some people. Now, this card is always kind of in these Traptrix decks, and it's because you play trap monsters. Time Thief Redoer. It's very, very often you have chances to have a trap monster activated and used as material, and if that's the case, that just turns the bounce online for Time Thief Redoer, and that is amazing. It's not a bounce, it's a spin, I think is the correct terminology. Yeah. Now we have Evil Swarm Exciton Knight. Sometimes your opponent just has a big board. This is a great way to equalize things. I have been sold on it, and yeah, I think that it's just a good versatility pick. Speaking of versatility picks, this one is going to... I'm not going over the side deck in this profile because, you know, that will change depending on the meta, but this is specifically something for the side deck. So, Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon. Sure, this can be used for, like, a weird OTK sometimes, or, like, you know, get over a big angry thing, but that's not what it's here for. So in our side deck, we are playing 2 copies of Eradicator Epidemic Virus. So it has been pointed out that in the rank 4 Xyz pool, Dark Rebellion Xyz Dragon is basically the only Xyz monster that, like, meets the activation requirements for Epidemic Virus. So you can actually activate Epidemic Virus from Lady Labrynth, which is kind of like the main draw, especially since she has the chance to set it. But sometimes if you just draw Epidemic Virus and you can get 2 rank 4s on the board, then you can just have Dark Rebellion there as the catalyst for what is essentially a free win against other trap or spell decks. And then, so yeah, that is the last spice here, because the last card in my extra deck is not spice. This is an Xyz deck. If you didn't think we were playing Zeus, I don't know what to tell you. It is 2023. That's just what Xyz decks do. I'm not playing 2, because once again, I like all the cards in my extra deck. I don't want to make space for 2 Zeus. Even if it gets ripped out of the deck, honestly, I would rather have Zeus ripped out than any of the pieces that are necessary to my combo. So, that is the whole deck. Like I said, it's not setting the world on fire, like when it comes to Traptrix decks. A lot of it is very similar to what you're going to see. But I do think that the little bit of added spice that the Labrynth cards, the little bit of added slice that Dimension Slice gives, which I think that more people should be looking at Dimension Slice as a tech option in this deck. But yeah, I think that this is a fun alternative to pure Traptrix Control, and I definitely recommend you give it a try. Thank you so much for tuning in. Happy dueling. This is Miss Layla Fortune. I love you. Bye-bye.